People, we got us one. Before we get into that, I want to say thank you for y'all watching my videos. If y'all new here, welcome to the channel. If y'all not new here, y'all know what's going on. Um, yeah, and like I say, if y'all can hit that like and subscribe button for me on the videos, it makes show me that y'all like the video, so YouTube can keep pushing them out there. I would greatly appreciate that. But yeah, we finna get into this video, man. I don't know if y'all been hearing about the twin boys that disappeared, that didn't make their flight to Boston, and apparently they arrested a man in connection with the murder. I don't know what's going on. I ain't really been seeing too much about it. This is the first video I done seen going around. So, we finna get into it and see what's going on.
Young men, both shot. The GBI ruled it a murder-suicide in their preliminary investigation, claiming one of the brothers pulled the trigger before turning the gun on himself. But their family refuses to accept that. They say the twins were inseparable, and the theory doesn't add up.
That sounds crazy already.
Reportedly, their plane tickets to Boston were allegedly still in their wallets. Investigators have not released any details about the gunshots, gun wounds, any weapons found at the scene, or any other details about how they were found and if or what was also on them. It's also unknown who had the last known contact with the twins and if there were any indicators from friends that the two weren't going to be making that trip to Boston. Police and family members have also not released how the two ended up on the mountain, such as driving or being dropped off. We do know that the FBI is assisting the Towns County Sheriff's Office with the investigation. So far, there has been one arrest in the case. Days after the twins' death, the GBI released an update saying they arrested and charged 42-year-old Scott Curlin with misdemeanor obstruction. Curlin is a volunteer firefighter in Towns County who took photos of the Lewis twins' death scene and shared them publicly in a GoFundMe page created by the brothers.
So they arrested who takes pictures of a crime scene then shares them on a social. Don't get me wrong, people will do that, but that's suspicious and creepy already. So yeah, they need to further investigate my dude.
She wrote, quote, "My nephews wouldn't do this. They came from a family of love, and the twins wanted so much for their future. They had dreams of starting their very own clothing line." Unfortunately, something happened at Bell Mountain that ended the lives of 19-year-old Qadir and Nazir, which needs to be further investigated. At the time of this recording, the GoFundMe has raised nearly $30,000. So what really happened on that mountain?
What really happened?
The brothers who were supposed to be on a flight to Boston end up dead in a place their family says they've never been.
Right.
It's a mystery their loved ones are desperate to unravel, and one they hope police will answer soon as they struggle to make sense of this unimaginable loss. And I'm joined by legal expert Lawrence Zimmerman. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
So let's just dive right in. Based on what we know, which unfortunately is not a lot of information at this point, does the official ruling of murder-suicide align with typical patterns seen in similar cases?
I mean, it's hard to really say because police don't always release all the details. So
that is true too.
It's kind of early, I think. I mean, I guess just if you look back just a couple weeks ago, the whole Gene Hackman thing, right? People thought that was potentially a murder-suicide. Ends up it wasn't at all. So I sometimes I think that's just because they don't really know anything else. That may just be the easiest conclusion to draw right now, and then they'll figure it out. But I don't know.
When investigators make an early ruling like this, how thorough is their process? Could they be potentially overlooking key evidence?
Yeah, of course. And I'm not trying to insult the Towns County Sheriff's Office, but it's not exactly, it's a pretty safe place, pretty safe county. They don't have many things like this happen up there. I know the area pretty well. And they don't have a large law enforcement, sheriff's department, just a couple investigators.
I ain't gonna lie. They don't look like no place I'm gonna go. Like, don't get me wrong, like the people probably do, like, the locals probably go there, but like as two black teenage boys, what the hell I'm doing on this fucking mountain? They look like the damn backwoods of Georgia, bro. Like, I'm just gonna magically go up there and just commit suicide. I don't like, especially if we ain't never heard or been there before. We're like, what the hell I look like we going up there, me and my twin going up there and then do that. Like, So like I said, this is suspicious, bro. Like like I said, they need to further
I don't think
investigate
they're,
this.
again, I'm not in any way criticizing them at all. I'm just saying I don't think they have the resources typically that you see in a major city or the experience, which is why a lot of people like living there because they don't have a lot of crime.
That is true too.
Do you think in situations like this is when they try to tap on other officials to help them with a case such as this one?
Yeah, and I know the GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, typically gets involved, and they did get involved in this. But again, it's still early, so it's hard to say. And, unfortunately for us, the police aren't typically don't give out a lot of information, right? Because they want to see if they can get any leads. If
That is true too.
tips.
Like I said, the police don't.
Sometimes they actually give out intentionally false information to try to generate a lead.
Well, the twins' family insists that they would not harm each other. How much weight does a family's perspective hold in cases like this?
I mean, you would hope that the family would know their kids better than anybody, obviously, right? I mean, it's pretty scary that this would all of a sudden just happen and there's been no sign at all whatsoever. But I don't know the family, and none of us do, so I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Nobody ever knows.
That's right.
That.
That's facts.
That may be the face they're putting on for the public. Again, I don't know. They may be 100% the greatest family in the world. So I'm just commenting. So who knows? And unfortunately, maybe for them, maybe the kids were involved in something or had some issues going on they didn't know about. But again, hard to say.
Do you think
it is hard to say?
Just the fact alone that the family is saying, hey, this would never happen is reason enough to reopen the case or to continue investigating? Or is this something that, police deal with all the time with families saying that, hey, this wouldn't happen or that wouldn't happen?
Sure. I mean, I have cases where people get involved in stuff where the families have zero idea. And as a parent of a teenager, it's kind of scary, so we think we know what's going on in our kids' lives, but sometimes you just don't. So it could just be a complete shock to them, and they could.
That is true too. Like I said in my previous videos, like people who don't be knowing what their kids be doing outside, when they leave the house, like I said, their kids can be in a whole bunch of shit going on. Like people don't know what their kids be having going on outside of the house, unless they really just be on their kids about like what you doing, just watching their kids, So I'm not saying that's the case because I don't think that's the case at all with these two boys. But like he what he said is facts though. Like
it could be true. Who knows? It's very unfortunate, very sad at the end of the day.
It is.
No matter what.
What kind of evidence would be needed to confirm or refute this murder-suicide theory?
I mean, I'd want to be looking for like gunshot residue on at least obviously one of the decedent's hands or body. Weapon obviously would be nice with someone's fingerprints if that was found somewhere. I think in a murder-suicide, you think they'd find the weapon. Right?
They didn't find a weapon though, so
I'm not sure how if someone killed himself, how the weapon would disappear.
Exactly.
Unless someone came along. I mean, who knows? Maybe it was a murder. We don't know if they're supposed to go to Boston. They had tickets. Maybe they ran into somebody that kidnapped them. Maybe they're meeting somebody somewhere and something went sideways. Maybe them going to Boston was a ruse that something bad happened. I hate to speculate. I mean, I know that's what we do right now, but I'd definitely be looking for a lot of those things. Text messages. I was through the police who gotten search warrants and gotten, looked into their messages, their locations, their emails, see what was going on, their call logs. I mean, those are things they would definitely be looking into.
Now, but with the murder-suicide theory, I like what you brought up there about, the murder weapon. Wouldn't they have found that?
Where is the murder weapon? Did they not find, like, how the hell is going to be a murder-suicide if no weapon was found? Like, I just feel like they just threw something out there and just so they can like I said, they just giving out little information. They just threw something out there, to throw to keep the public, out the business of the case. But like, where's the legit? Where's the murder weapon at? Like I said, murder suicide. The weapon's gonna be laying next to whoever did it. You're not just going the gun or whatever it was used is not gonna purposely just disappear. So, like I said, where's the gun at?
Or is that something that just wouldn't get released to the public? Because you would think
that could be true. Like I said, they probably not releasing it.
And one of the twins potentially killed the other, then there would be a gun. Or is it just possible that they wouldn't tell the public?
I mean, it's weird, right? Common sense dictates if someone kills himself, they can't get rid of the
Exactly.
gun. I'm
Common
not
sense,
laughing
bro.
at the death. I'm just laughing
Right,
at this. I
right.
mean, how's that even possible?
You feel me?
So I
Like,
don't know the situation or how there's no weapon found if they're claiming it's murder suicide. That's certainly a contradiction. And to answer your question is maybe the police aren't giving out that information. Maybe they're trying to see if that leads to someone coming forward with more information.
If law enforcement rushes to judgment in a case, what legal steps can a family take to push for further investigation?
A lot of times you see public, here we are on a new show right now. The victims' families obviously would, generate a lot of publicity with a case like this,
mm-hmm.
and that could put a lot of pressure on law enforcement to try to look into it more.
Yeah, see what happened.
I'm not so sure. I'm asking you. I don't know if this was a final conclusion they've drawn as a murder suicide, but I certainly would think if there's no weapon found, that's contradictory to a murder suicide.
Yeah, this is, preliminary investigation. We're waiting on the autopsies and things like that. But this is what has been released to the public as of.
But with an autopsy, like what people fail to realize, with an autopsy, bro, you can tell, especially if it was a gunshot wound, you can tell like if it was a suicide or they was intentionally shot, especially with a gunshot wound. Like that's when. So the autopsy is gonna show what really happened. Like you can't tell me that them boys committed suicide. Well, one of them, and then the other one killed the other one. There was no weapon found. They got gunshot wounds. Especially where they shot whoever. If one of them did shoot the other one, where did he shoot the other one at? And then where he shot himself at, where he unalive himself at. The autopsy will reveal that, but the autopsy ain't really needed. It's a GSW, bro. Like it's gonna be plain and simple
so far.
Okay.
Now, if this were a double homicide instead, what would investigators be looking for?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the angle, where the bullet wounds, obviously how they were shot.
Yep.
Who else was up there? Maybe see if there's any cameras, license plate readers, and Bell Mountain, Hiawassee. Like, it's not the area around there is not highly populated. Not a lot. I don't think there's a lot of surveillance cameras like there are in a major, city like Atlanta. But it's pretty crowded. Anytime I've been in Bell Mountain, it's usually pretty crowded. There's a lot of people. It's a beautiful view from the lake. So like eyewitnesses, certainly.
And we'll touch on, just the specifics of the area in a second. But can an independent autopsy or forensic expert contradict a state ruling?
Yes.
If so, how often does that actually influence law enforcement?
Yeah, it's pretty rare. I mean, that someone gets an independent autopsy. It's pretty expensive. Not everybody does that. I'm not so sure in this kind of situation if it's a gunshot wound. I'm not really sure what an autopsy
would prove
out, right?
You feel me?
I don't know what they would be looking for because it's an autopsy. It's fairly, not easy for me. I'm not a medical examiner, but I don't think it's a pretty common thing, unfortunately. So I don't know what an independent autopsy would rule out. Again, don't know.
Well, how often do forensic mistakes happen in cases like this, if at all?
It shouldn't be the GSW.
In a gunshot case, and depending on what the ruling is, mistakes happen all the time in the forensic medical exams and forensic sciences, right? But I think in an autopsy with a gunshot wound, it seems just to be a sort of a basic autopsy. It's nothing like.
What I say? It should just be a simple, basic. Like I didn't say that, but it should be simple, straight to the point. It's a gunshot wound. Like people, you can see the exit, entry wound, all that. Like, what further investigation do they need to do to rule out if it was a murder or a murder suicide or not?
Toxicology, looking for drugs in someone's system.
Exactly.
They not overdosed, or if it's a question they overdosed, or if something killed them, poison. Those are more complex kind of.
You feel me? Complex as hell.
Disease, right? But a gunshot. We live in the United States of America. Unfortunately, gunshots are pretty every minute occurrence.
Yep.
And we touched on this a little bit in the beginning, but how do factors like cell phone records, GPS tracking, or digital evidence come into play in cases where foul play is suspected?
These days, it's everything. I mean, digital evidence could,
Make or
include
break
you
a
in a
case.
crime
You
or
feel me?
exclude you from a
Yes,
crime.
exactly.
So most investigators will look into digital evidence. They'll look at someone's cell phone records, their messages, their emails, their iCloud accounts, the Apple phone or Android, or the Google accounts, everything, like GPS, cell site location information, meaning cell towers. Your phone pings off different towers while you're traveling. They could, depending on what part of the town you're in, there's more towers in a big city, but certainly you ping on towers in near Hiawassee, Bell Mountain area that would show them. They could also do something called reverse geo fence. They're able to put like a little fence around the area, and they could look and see what other people were in that same area at that same time.
And my thing, like, so if I don't know, like I said, if it was this what I'm if it was a murder suicide, they drove themselves there. But if it wasn't, which it don't seem like it was a murder suicide, like how the hell two 19-year-old boys, they twins, two 19-year-old boys, like y'all know where the airport is and what direction there. Don't get me wrong, y'all probably don't. I ain't saying, but like if they from like I think they said they from Lawrenceville. If I read, I read something. I think they said Lawrenceville. That's outside of Atlanta, so I'm pretty sure they know the direction to the airport and not the opposite way. So if they was like magically picked up. What the hell was they? They didn't. Him and his brother didn't have no type of communication. Like, hey, I would have been texting my brother, like, hey, I don't think this, the right way or something like that. And then we would have, we had to put a plan and get up out of there. So if they were just magically picked up and we can get all the way to Bell Mountain, bro. I don't even know where they said. I'm about to look it up. Like, that motherfucker is damn near to the North Carolina border, and you telling me y'all didn't think of anything? If it was, they was, like magically picked up and kidnapped. Y'all didn't think to like, hey, like what is going on here? Like, where you taking us? Like, as a kid, bro, I was taught to like know where I was going, know my directions. And I ain't about to just sit here and let somebody take me nowhere, especially not me and we two 19-year-old boys. We was gonna have to beat the shit out that driver or something. We was gonna have to do something because he ain't about to take me this
That's a way
anywhere.
to also uncover potentially other suspects if they're involved or not. They may have done that and concluded there's nobody else around at that time in the morning, or maybe there's one or two people and they've interviewed them. But certainly in today's day and age, digital evidence is everything.
It's everything on me.
Are there any legal precedents where a murder suicide ruling was later overturned due to any new evidence?
Sure. I mean, I just mentioned the Gene Hackman thing. It sounds like that was pretty much, can't sound like I think initially the reports were sounds like a murder suicide, ended up not being that at all.
Well, we need to find out more
Right.
about this case
And
too.
and
Then
so, I guess at this point, again, this was the preliminary investigation. I guess all we can do is wait. What role does ballistic evidence play in determining who fired the weapon?
Well, it's a gunshot case, so obviously it plays the major role.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
they'll look at the angle of the entry points and the bullets, what type of projectile was found,
Yep.
Casings or any bullet casings around the bodies, see where they were ejected. That obviously makes a difference depending on the kind of firearm. If different guns eject projectiles different ways. Some go backwards to the side, some go forward, so that it all plays into the case. But of course, at the end of the day, this is just trying to narrow down what happened. No one can say for sure.
And moving on to the gunshot residue, how crucial is gunshot residue testing, and what can it tell investigators?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty important. If they found gunshot residue on one kid and not on
Exactly.
the other,
Then that'd be murder
be
suicide.
assigned to us. It looks like a murder suicide, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. What are some
But
of
if
the
it
most
wasn't
common
nothing found on him, then it was a
misinterpretations
murder.
law enforcement makes in murder suicide cases? Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say with the most basic what mistakes they make. I just think a rush to judgment or a rush to a conclusion is really usually the biggest mistake I see in any case. Is they're trying to come up with an answer, and they come up with one too soon just to appease either the family, the public, or obviously it's not appeasing the family, but just to come up with an answer because of the magnitude of the case.
If new evidence emerges later, which, we've said that definitely can happen. We saw that with Gene Hackman. We see that in other cases as well. What is the process for law enforcement to reconsider a ruling?
I mean, there's really no process. They just have new evidence. They go back through it and they come up with a decision that's based on evidence that they give more weight and come up with that conclusion.
And you're familiar with Bell Mountain.
Okay, yeah,
Does
let's
anything about this location make it a plausible or unlikely place for this to have happened?
exactly.
Well, as I was alluding to before, when I've been there, it's usually pretty crowded. Again, it's a very scenic area, and people go vacation there. It's quiet. It's not easy to get all the way to the top.
It is at the top of that
paved
motherfucker.
road, but it curves around. I mean, it goes all the way.
Like I said, if I ain't been somewhere, I'm not willingly going to take myself, me and my brother up there to commit suicide. If we was going to commit suicide, we just did it right, But they went to the top of that mountain. Like I said, they never been there before. So, and they knew how to get to the top of the mountain. Like that ain't suspicious, bro. Like that ain't weird. Like, I don't know, man. It just, that shit crazy.
Steep, actually. But there are houses. There's the residential area. You have to go through a residential area to get up there. It's only one way in, one way out. So if there were a gunshot fired, gunshots, you'd think somebody
would have heard
something, and seen something going on. There's definitely a bunch.
Man, that's another thing. So maybe they was killed. Like I said, on the way to the mountain, then they was just dumped there. Like, cause how the hell they gonna kill it? Like he said, somebody would have. If he said it was very residential, somebody would have heard a gunshot and would have went out there. Cause people nosy as hell, and was no gun found, nothing, no evidence of nothing found, but it was a murder suicide. Yeah, okay, okay.
You have to pass by on the way up there. And the way out.
Yeah, and do you mind, just kind of painting a picture for us, for those that haven't been or don't know what it looks like?
Because for what on my Google is
just from police and from reports that have been released that the twins were found at the very top of the mountain. How hard is it to get up there? How long does it take? Explain it to us.
So to get to the top, it's probably about there's two parts. There's the top, which is flat with the parking lot. So it's about a 10-minute drive, winding road. And once you get to the parking lot, there's another part that goes up to the top, which is pretty steep. So not every car I would recommend, or even the faint of heart, would want to go up to the top. When I go, I have my Jeep, so there's a lot of Jeeps up there actually. You go 4-wheel drive up to the top because really, it's pretty steep, and I'd say about your elevation is probably about 2,800 feet up. It's pretty high for Georgia.
That's high.
And everything around is flat, so you could see for miles. And you can look down, and you see the huge lake, the lake in Hiawassee, Lake Chattooga. You can see over North Carolina. It's gorgeous.
That's what I said. Like when I just looked it up on my Apple Maps. That motherfucker, right? You can see, like, if you say you can see North Carolina, bro, that motherfucker was like you can see the North Carolina border from there. So how y'all go from supposed to be going to the airport, y'all go north to almost North Carolina, bro? Like that don't make sense, bro, at all.
Just idyllic place. So for
and you ain't never been there before.
It's pretty awful. So, but again, and I guess the question is, how do these kids even know where Bell Mountain was? How do they know to go to the top? Why would they go to the top?
Exactly.
Those are questions that I have. Why pick that spot for a murder suicide?
Exactly.
Seems kind of strange to me.
Right, and according to the family, the family has told, media outlets that they've never even been there before. Or they don't, them as a family they've never been, so they believe the twins have never been on their own as well.
Exactly.
I know you said a lot of people usually frequent that area. Is there cell service? Is there reception? Are there cameras around? Can you explain that?
There's cell service. You're asking if there's cameras. I've never really thought about it until now. Maybe. Again, it's not a major metropolitan area, so highly unlikely. As we're talking about this, I would say I would assume investigators have gone into the kids' phones
Yeah, I'm like, did they?
and looked at their Google searches. Maybe they Googled Bell Mountain. If they Googled Bell Mountain, then obviously that's important because that shows they were looking for Bell.
Like, I'm sorry for pausing, but bro, like, they just randomly Google Google Bell Mountain, bro. Like, well, how random is that? Like, I don't know, man.
As opposed to them getting in trouble with somebody, maybe somebody forced them at gunpoint, and they go all the way to Hiawassee.
That's what I'm saying. That makes more sense.
Or something, who knows? But I would assume that their Google searches or whatever they use for a search engine would help, illuminate what they were trying to do or where they were going. And historically, had they ever been there before, they could potentially see that in their phone as well.
From a legal perspective, how does a remote location impact an investigation?
I think it make it easier, actually, right? I mean, there's nobody really around, and there's not a ton of people going in and out. Like I said, it's crowded. I mean, it's different times of the year, obviously, right? And it's not crowded in the sense of like New York City crowded. Just it's not a big area. So it's just crowded for that part of town. But if it's remote, I mean, you think it's not remote like Alaska. So I mean, it's just a place top of the mountain.
That shit remote enough that I don't go up there.
But you think it'd make it easier because there'd be less crowds, less people to worry about. That there maybe less eyewitnesses, but I don't think it creates problems. It's not hard to get to. If that's what you're asking. It's not. You have to go looking around and climb up and down the side of the mountain. It's not like that. There's a parking lot. There's a top. There's a staircase.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's a lot of graffiti on. People go to the top and they like paint all the rocks with their names on it and all that. So.
Well, this is definitely an ongoing.
I don't know. That's crazy. I don't know what to think, but I thought they was gonna talk about the dude they arrested more. They didn't really talk about him. But that's crazy, bro. Like, y'all be safe out there, man. Make sure y'all protect yourselves, y'all families, bro. Just be aware of your surroundings, of what's going on. Like, I don't know what really happened. I guess they gonna keep, like I said, this is under investigation still. Maybe we hear more about it, but it just don't seem right to me, like I said. But I guess we're gonna find out. Like I said, y'all, like I said, just be safe out there, protect your family, and just be aware of what's going on. And if y'all can hit that like and subscribe button for me, man, I would appreciate it. Thank you.